Wake up in the morning, I just gotta get it. Wake up in the morning, I just gotta get it.
Hey everyone, welcome to LMS, the Lunch Meeting with Schoology. We are your co-host for lunch. I'm Kellie Eady, and I'm joined by my colleague and co-host, Ericka Waterman. And both of us, former educators, totally remember how great it was to connect with other people just during lunchtime, take a little bit of a break. So we're actually going to spend this time to do a little podcast so that you can join us for our lunch break.
Yeah, so overall, our lunch meetings are just going to be chatting about Schoology. Of course, it's our favorite product here at PowerSchool. But we also want to talk about trends that we're seeing and then have friends join us on our LMS podcast to share their own tips, tricks, and trends. So thanks for joining us today. We're excited to start the lunch meeting. Kellie, I'm so excited to be back talking with you about a few of our favorite things. Which does not include raindrops on roses or whiskers on kittens.
And thanks for that. The little sound, what do we call them? Earworms? That's now going to be my.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Just in a loop. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we just had so many good things coming out at the end of 2024. And I wanted to make sure our listeners knew about these favorite things that we have because they are really, really beneficial to the teacher's daily life in Schoology. And so, one of my favorite things that got released was we updated the elementary experience so that the teachers can limit their submission options. We heard over and over again, teachers wanted to be able to limit how students could respond to these assignments that they were putting in their elementary experience. And we finally listened and got that accomplished. So now teachers can control it, which I'm really excited to hear the feedback on this one, from users once we get into the start of January.
Yeah, because the elementary experience has been out, now for years, and that you're right. Like we heard that a lot, and our only answer before was, well, you can use an assessment because the assessment tool in Schoology is so flexible with like the different submission options you can have. So you could limit it by just making a one question assessment that had the submission type you wanted, but everybody wanted this to be in the assignment. So yeah, I think this is pretty huge.
Yeah, we're so good at giving people ideas of how they can utilize things that currently exist in the product while we finish developing what it is they really want in the product. So yeah, this is, I think, going to be a big one. I hope it actually kind of expands the use of elementary experience. I feel like that was also kind of a big limiter. And, we just want to keep pushing for some updates to that experience so those younger students are able to use Schoology when their districts have it.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. And it's interesting how often I'll ask somebody, like, are you using elementary experience? And they're like, wait, what is that in? How long has that been there? So I think it's always good to just remind people, like, this is actually a pretty cool thing. And when people see it, they're like, oh, this is cool. Can I use it with older kids?
Yeah, sure you can. It's not just limited. Yeah. That is so like a lot of the things in Schoology, though, especially I've just been very lucky to be able to work with you on a regular basis because you are always telling me more and more about things that exist in Schoology that I didn't know of, since this is still my first year working with the product. And, one of the other favorite things that we added, again, was something that I didn't realize quite how powerful it can be within Schoology. And that was we added the ability for parents to be able to see mastery in the elementary experience as well. So that way, parents could get in, see other students who are performing on standards. And I hadn't realized that was missing from the elementary experience. I thought, it was already there. So adding that back in, another favorite thing at the end of 2024, because Kellie, the importance of mastery and especially parents being able to see how their students are performing also.
Well, yeah. And I think if we're going to see standards-based anything happening, it's most often at least starting in elementary. Lots of standards-based report cards. And I think that, we have a really nice view of that in Schoology, and having it like unavailable in the one population that we knew was probably doing standards-based grading. Like, so I was super excited. That's one that I've, been sort of like trying to like, don't forget, like we really use mastery inside of the elementary experience, especially for parents, because they're the ones that are, really wanting to see how students are doing. And there's so many like student-led conferences that happen. So yeah, many reasons this is one of my favorite things right now. Yes.
Yeah, agreed. And I always thought that maybe elementary started off with their with mastery and really grading from standards just because it was simpler. I always, I guess I was kind of like my grandma who always thought like the better the teacher you were, the higher the grade you taught in, which I had to tell her was like the opposite. I was like, are you kidding me? A classroom full of kindergartners? That's a top tier teacher right there. Uh, but anyway, I just kind of assumed that it was, well, maybe it just is easier to get started in elementary. But then what I've really learned from talking with districts is a lot of them are starting with doing it in elementary because you have to train the parents, right?
Yeah.
Parents grew up with that ABCD, mentality. And so switching it from, that kind of traditional grading into standards based works when they're young parents, right? This is their kids' first time through. So to not have the parents be able to see the mastery in our elementary experience, to your point, was a pretty big deal that we needed to add. So for sure, making that favorite list. Absolutely. But I got to say,
you said that actually, Ericka, about the quality of teacher perception. When I first started working in my previous district, the person that was like basically at the district level, because I was at a school at first, I was said, how can I be, more equipped to support the technology needs? And he was like, well, I'll tell you what, if you want to see really good instruction, it's like, go watch elementary. He was like, they are just masters of routines, of like figuring out how long kids need to do something. They are constantly, he's like, just imagine being with kids all day long with all the content areas. And as a secondary teacher, I was like, that sounds terrible. But
really
the first time I went to a second grade classroom and they were doing something with the computer lab and I offered to help. And I I was the worst. I gave way too many instructions. There was like a rug involved in the center. The kids were all on the rug and they were supposed to leave the rug to go do something and come back. Like I didn't know any of the processes. And also they hugged.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got kind of swarmed when I first came in the room. And I was like, whoa.
What is happening?
High school. We do the fist bump and like, the head
Yep.
bump.
For sure.
So for a long time I called it the land of hugs and rugs. But I really do feel like the elementary experience is like in terms of instruction is such a magical time. And now I get to live vicariously. My son just started teaching second grade. This year. Yeah.
That's so fantastic. I love that.
Very cute. He sent me a picture of their Halloween, like, back when Halloween happened and all the kids came dressed up and he had 7 little girls that all came as Taylor Swift. Anyway, but this actually leads into another favorite thing. Because one thing my son was telling me was he was having a hard time coming up with prompts for creative writing for his second graders. And so one of like my favorite things that we have happening right now in Schoology is that content generation tool that we have powered by generative AI inside of assignments, inside of discussions. And he was talking about like just asking for a prompt and getting some really cool ideas to, the kids are not getting into Schoology in his second grade class necessarily, but he's like using it to get ideas.
I love that. And that is something where I'm so glad you brought that up as a favorite thing, because I think this has been overlooked because so many AI tools that are out there that schools have to adopt. It has to cost, it costs money, where, it's just available for Schoology for free. Like you said, you go to assignments, you go to discussions, you see that little, it's kind of a pretty icon, I think, the purple blue. to generate the content. And you got PowerBuddy helping you out right then and there. So I just love that we give that away. It's, a part of Schoology now. For those of you listening, if you do not have it, you need to talk to your district. They can get that turned on for you. Because it truly is, it just alleviates a lot of the time and the mental stress of, again, like you said, coming up with writing prompts or researching for passages, and it just makes life so much simpler. I know I've been trying it out quite a bit just to, play around and see, things that I like about it, things that we maybe need to improve. But one of the things I really like is how easy it is for me to create things that are based off things that students are interested in now. I taught middle school, and having to teach fact versus opinion to students, I would always try to find articles that were, at a reading level that would be appropriate for my students, but yet also have a topic that was appropriate for my students, but also had appropriate, balance of fact and opinion. And a lot of times I ended up writing stuff myself, which, obviously takes forever. So I tried that out with our PowerBuddy for the content generation and assignments, and it was so slick. I just said, hey, I want, make sure you put in 3 facts, make sure you put in 3 opinions, give me this material. And then what was even better was I was able to switch the reading level. I brought it down a level, I brought it up a level so I could have differentiation about the same topic, which was really great because that way all the kids in the class are reading the same thing, but they're doing it at a level that's appropriate for them. So definitely one of my favorite things. Glad you brought that one up.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you mentioned, for those listening that don't have it, I can imagine people going like, wait, I don't see this in mine. It is something that has to be enabled. So, as Ericka said, it does require somebody at the district to kind of initiate getting that turned on. But, you're talking about, kind of some cool things to do with it. I was actually with Adam Larson at a Texas event, and he was showing PowerBuddy, and he told it to describe the pH scale, but as if the PowerBuddy was speaking like Yoda. And so
no way.
I put the whole pH scale in Yoda syntax. Every time we do something and play with it, we come up with a new cool thing to do that is just entertaining.
I love that.
Yeah.
And how fun of the start of class to have something like that even displayed for the class, or, like a little quote if you're going to cover that, and have it phrased like that. I just think that's the possibilities are endless. And, a lot of times teachers that I've talked to have been like, well, I already have content. I don't need anything to help me create content. I've already got it. But it's those creative ways that I think really, truly make it so valuable. And another thing I've found about it is I always struggle with student choice. I don't know how much you did that at high school, but in middle school, I really tried to do okay, show me that you understand this. Yeah. Show me you understand this by doing either this, this, or this. But coming up with those, just painful. Sit and think. It'd be things like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and jot stuff down because all of a sudden it would hit me that was another great idea. So I tried that with the PowerBuddy, and I asked it for 10 ways that students could show that they understood place value in math.
Yeah.
And again, it took it I don't know, it was maybe 30 seconds, maybe. And here they all were. And I was like, these are great. It was things with Legos and things with, drawing and, other different options, but I was just amazed. And things that would have taken me forever to think of, it just does so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward, you were saying you're looking forward to hearing the feedback that you get around the elementary, being able to limit the submission choices. I really want to see more and more people using that free part inside of the assignments and the discussion boards, because every time people are in there, there's excitement about what they can do. So I'm looking forward to seeing that really grow, I think, over the next year.
I think it's so we haven't even reached the potential yet, right? And I think we're only gonna, like you said, see more and more creativity from people as they use it. 100%.
Yeah. So, speaking of I feel like I'm just telling stories about my family. This is a random one. But when you were talking about like, choice and like engagement, I came across this article today that was in Ed Week that was about banning cell phones. And like, I didn't realize this, but I didn't realize how widespread it was, but 18 states have some kind of
Oh, I didn't
restriction,
realize it was
ban,
that
whatever.
wide yet either.
I know. I mean, I've
Holy
heard it, but I
cow.
thought it was more like at like certain districts. I didn't realize like these are statewide like decisions.
Yeah.
And my husband and I were talking about this because where he's teaching currently, they have a policy that they just started this year where when kids walk in the door, they dump their cell phone into like a little pocket that's right by the door. And it stays there the whole period, and the kids pick up their phones before they leave. And when he first described it, I was like, oh, I think there's going to be a lot of pushback for that. And it was kind of interesting. Like what he came back with was, at first it was hard, and the kids were definitely like, there was like it was almost like probably like withdrawal kind of, right? Like,
Yeah.
and now they're like appreciative, like they're recognizing how it's really good to be unplugged sometimes for things. So anyway, we have a poll that's up on we call it the Schoology Users Toolbox. And if you're, listening on YouTube, there's a QR code that'll let you get there very quickly. We have a poll there asking, we'd love to hear from anybody who's listening, what's your experience with cell phones right now? Like, are you in a situation where they're banned, or there's some kind of restriction in place, or nothing at all? And one thing that was interesting in my husband's case is there's another high school that's in the same district who they're doing something totally different. So there's not even consistency at the district level, which I think
everyone's
really
still trying to figure out. Yeah, they're trying to figure out what works, right? Like, because I was actually talking to my son, who's a sophomore now, because they have that same policy where you got to put them in, the pockets when you walk into the class. And he said some people are bringing like old phones and putting it in there so that they can keep their like current one with them. You know what I mean? Like, kids, creative. They're always creative. They're always going to find a way around things. But so it's even, not only is it a difference in policy and what they're deciding, but it's also a difference in how well executed it is. So like, I love the fact that, your husband's experiences, the kids are actually realizing how beneficial it is to set it aside. Where my son has just learned how to very slyly, I did not condone this, by the way, with him trying to get around the system, but I think he's learned how to get around the system. And so, it's just one of those, it's definitely an interesting topic. So I agree with you. I hope everybody does the poll, because I can't wait to see what the results are. Because, it is something that we do have to balance in all of our lives, right? Like I have to balance, not using my phone during work, which I feel like is it's the student's job to learn. And so they kind of have to learn how to balance that use of cell phones for sure.
Yeah, and one thing I'll be interested to see too, like I remember using, because like you and I were talking earlier, like cell phones have been around for a long time, and like there are some cool things that you can do with them. I think it just seems like you had said earlier, like there's just all of a sudden policies and bans happening where it just all seems to be happening at once. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
why now?
It is. Because, I remember teaching and, kids had cell phones and you just, and it was post having to do the 9-key, like texting. I was around with the smartphones with kids, but, we just wasn't as intrusive. So it's very interesting, like how, I suppose, kids are getting younger when they have cell phones. It's just become,
that's true. And the smartphone changed things too. Like, I mean, I'm obviously like dating myself here, but like there were flip phones when I first saw these in the mix. And that was, I don't know, it's like having kids with a calculator, like, okay, like, it takes you forever to text. So it's like,
exactly.
But we also have a lot of folks that like do have like mobile apps that they use with kids, so I guess that's I know there are other places where they're providing a device that is mobile maybe, or,
Yes.
all, but it's not their phone. So that way it's a little bit more focused. Probably not a bad approach, actually.
Yeah. Like, how do you take cell phones and just incorporate them into what you're doing? So then
Yeah.
it's not a distraction. It's rather embedded into
Yeah.
their learning. So yeah,
Yeah.
this poll will be interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think, we're hearing a lot of different things. I'm sure everybody's experiencing different things. So it'll be interesting to see how, if there's a front runner.
Yeah. And I also will be curious to see like what the policy restriction might look like. But it sounds like a lot of them are doing that like limited, like you can have it, but it has to be like secured somewhere during class or whatever. I don't know. Also be curious to see where this goes as we look at the
Yep.
rest of the year. So, well, thank you for chatting about some favorite things. And
I know. Our time always goes so fast, Kelly. I really, really enjoy talking with you, and especially about Schoology with you, because it's such a phenomenal product. I do think that there's so much good to it. So it's fun chatting about those.
yeah. Well, look forward to the next time we chat.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.